Hi everyone. Today we have a very interesting podcast session. This is going to dive deep into a lot of things. And guess who our guest speaker today is? It's the GitHub star, Santosh Yadav. So I know Santosh, you have done a lot of things, but if there were a few sentences, what is the best way that you describe yourself?
Interesting. It's a good question. How I describe myself? Hmm, Maybe just a software engineer who loves to hang out and stay at home because I love to work from home.
So a remote first developer who's big into open source as well. That's awesome. So Santosh, we would really like to know about your journey. We can already see in the background the GitHub Star, like the awards there as well. So for anybody who doesn't, people must know what GitHub is, but they might not know what GitHub Star is, and also your journey of how did you become a GitHub Star.
Yeah. So talk about what GitHub Star is. It's actually kind of an ambassador program. So if you know that it's an ambassador program called GD, which is like by Google for Google Developer Experts. Then you have MVP, which is also kind of an ambassador program. And GitHub actually launched this program way back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think during COVID, that was the first year they launched. Probably they already had plan, and then
Mm-hmm.
it just got launched basically during COVID. So it's a program where you like they recognize developers who have been doing open source teaching and talking about GitHub, right? Talking about open source and contributing to open source.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like nomination. It's a different from other programs basically where you get nominated. Like you can self-nominate as well, and you can also like get nominated by some existing GDs or like Googler. In case of MVP, you can get
Mm-hmm.
referred by existing MVP. But here it's like community needs to actually recommend you. So if you go to a website called stars.github.com, you will
Mm-hmm.
see like a page where you can log in and then you can nominate 3 people to become a GitHub star. So when it was launched, I was like, okay, I just saw this and I was really excited because of course I was doing a lot of open source and I had just started like doing talks and everything. I just had started like I had also started my podcast by that time. I think so. And
Mm-hmm.
then I saw like some people who were already recognized at GitHub Star because when they launched the program, they already handpicked few contributors, right? So I just shared it on social media like, hey, like there are so many developers like from India who has been doing open source. So if you think like someone who deserves it, just go ahead and nominate. So I was not expecting that I will be nominated, and somehow I got like probably enough nominations. Like, and then the next step was, of course, receiving an email from GitHub that okay, you have been nominated, and if you want to go ahead, just fill up your profile. And I was like, okay, let's do this. I mean, this sounds like an exciting thing
Mm-hmm.
because I've been doing open source and like teaching, contributing. So yeah, and I submitted the form, and then around I think November, yeah, 2022, 2020, sorry, I
Mm-hmm.
received a mail that you have been recognized as a GitHub star, and I was the first one from India. So I was like, wow, that's an amazing
Yeah,
feeling
yeah.
because first one from India, and then they actually posted on social media as well, GitHub, that we have our first Indian GitHub star,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like amazing feeling. But to do that, like of course as I said, like you have to be active in open source. You have to talk about GitHub as platform as well as of course where people contribute, right? And then teaching, which is also important. So all those things make you a GitHub star. But the only thing is, of course, there are like limited slots. If you
Mm-hmm.
see, like there are not even 100 stars as of now.
Yes.
So it's like very exclusive program because they just don't want it lot of people right in the program. So that was, and then you can become a star for 3 years. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
got like renewed for 4 years. Some of them are because we have been doing some contributions, and as we said, like there
Yes.
are just limited slots. So yeah, I got lucky that I have been here for 4 years now. So yeah, this is how it happened.
Yeah, no, it is so interesting. And I also think, along with your announcement, we also saw that all GitHub stars were invited to the GitHub office. And just like the Hollywood walk, there's now a walk which has like the star on the pavement. So, were you able to attend it? And if yes, how was it? Like, what was the feeling like when you saw your name? Like, it is like the Hollywood version for developers.
Actually, I went there last year. That was my first time because I couldn't. I mean, I was invited for 2022 edition as well, but it was like my schedule was very packed and I couldn't visit that year. So I decided to fly previous year, 2022, and I saw that Walk of Fame. They call it as Walk of Fame, and of course my name was there. So I actually posted it on social media, like from slums of Mumbai to having a Walk of Fame at GitHub Universe. Like this is some amazing feeling, and of course, like people really got motivated. Like a lot of people commented on that post. I think it got more than thousand likes. I mean, I generally don't get that much likes, but yeah, I mean that was an amazing feeling because of course when I was growing up or whenever when I was in college, I would never thought like something like this can happen to me, like having my name like where like the entire, I mean the biggest people from the industry probably are there, and most people who are contributing to open source are there, and then I have a like Walk of Fame there where people can see my name. So it was and like amazing feeling.
Yes. No, like I think every developer in India was so proud, like seeing you as the first GitHub star, because there are so many developers in India, and then having that representation of an Indian developer in the GitHub, like the GitHub stars community or the open source space as well, was like it was kind of a proud feeling for every Indian, I believe. And so, since a key point in becoming a GitHub star was being very active in the open source community, right, from contributions to teaching, sharing knowledge, mentoring people. So, how did you get started in open source?
It's actually a very old story. I mean, it's been 5 years now. Like I've been contributing to open source in different ways. I mean, of course. So let's like go back in 2017. I think it so all started around 2014 when I heard the name open source for the first time. So I was working at a startup in Mumbai, and I mean, my life was a whole. I mean, of course, I enjoyed that time because I was young and crazy. So of course, I worked like crazy. Like I used to work for multiple days in office, and I was. I mean, even like if you see this startup world, it's where you actually grow fast as well, right? So you like jump the ladders very fast as compared to the traditional companies where you will probably become a lead after 5 years or 6 years. So I was probably that was the phase I was enjoying it because I needed money to survive, and uh, that was the only way I knew that okay, if I work hard, probably I'll make more money here. So one of my friends was he moved to Canada like long back, and he used to tell me like, hey, you are like really talented. Why don't you like start contributing to open source? I was like, oh, what is open source? Because I was a .NET developer. So if you know, .NET was not open source for a long time. I mean, it was like I moved away from .NET around 2016-17, and that was the time .NET was transitioning into open source framework. So of course, like I missed that period, right? I mean, of course, I could have gotten the early advantage because I knew .NET, but that was the time I moved away. So he said those words, and I'm like, dude, I already have a lot of work to do here. Why should I do something for free? That's the question most people ask as of now today. Like if you post somewhere that okay, I contributed this, that, out of 10 probably 2 people will ask, are you getting paid for this?
Yeah.
And that was the same. I was like, okay, why should I do it for free? Because I already have a lot of work to do. So time passed, and 2016 I moved to Pune. I started writing about .NET. So I started my blog because I was having a lot of free time. You know, Mumbai traffic. You can easily save 4 hours. Like I was traveling for 4 hours a day when I was in Mumbai, and sometime even don't used to come back to home. So Pune was like the new job, very settled. I mean, my client was from US, so they're like, okay, Friday afternoon, go back home.
Yeah.
You don't have to do. And I was like, well, how like is this a life? I mean, how people can just work like this? So I thought like I started recollecting what I wanted to do. So I started to like writing a little bit of .NET, and then uh, one of one of my I mean yeah, his friend now. So one of the person in Pune, he was running his uh, this uh, institutes, training institutes. So he was looking for someone to teach Angular JS.
Okay.
So I connected with him. We met in person, and then I said, hey, yeah, I have worked on Angular JS, I think, and I have time, so I can do this. I started teaching Angular JS. Of course, that was the time I also needed money. So it helped me a lot, like financially. And then during like teaching Angular JS, Angular came, and then I started teaching Angular. So I was like, okay, let's do this. This is the new thing. So people will eventually move to Angular. So I started teaching Angular and then got a job. 2017, I got like a good, I mean, better than previous pay, of course. So I got a job at Deutsche Bank, and then I worked there for a few years. So like after 2017, 2018 was the year like I thought, like of course you sometimes you have, if you have time, you try to revisit your past, right? And you see like, okay, what you have done and where you want to be. So like, hey, I mean, there was a time like I was really struggling for money, and what helped me was learning Angular JS or Angular, and how I did it was for free. I mean, of course, I found the resources online. I even got Google Site access from my employer. So I started learning from there. So everything was free, and I made money out of it. I made my career now. I'm working at a bank, probably one of the biggest bank. So I thought like, let's give back to the community. Like that this is 2018. I was like, I can, but the important question, right? How? So whenever we think about doing something, we're like, how? So 2018 was the year like not many people were doing open source. And for me, actually, I went to the GitHub. I was like looking at the contributor list, and I thought like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I want to contribute to Angular, and I saw like there are no Indian in this list. And I promised myself I'll be the So, and then I promised myself that I'll be the first one to be in that list. And then, of course, 2018 was not very good year for as a family. So I like decided to take a break. And then 2018 did nothing. End of 2018, when things became stable, I decided to like look for the ways like how I can get involved. And I found an conference which was happening, an Angular conference, and I went there. So it was like Feb of 2020, 2019. So Feb of 2019, I just went there, met people from, of course, community. I met people from Angular team. So I think that was the time. One of the person called Vikram, he used to work for Angular team. Now he doesn't. So I met him. I asked him questions like, "Hey, I want to contribute to Angular, but like, how should I do it?" And then he started saying, "Yeah, you can contribute using. I mean, you can create contents around it. You can do YouTube videos." Of course, that was the time I was like really shy. Like recording myself in front of camera, of course, I couldn't imagine it, like doing that. So I was like, no, this is not what I want to do. I want to actually contribute on GitHub repository. How should I do that? And then he said, look, we have like a lot of open issues related to documentation. And then I realized, I mean, I have read that documentation. That's not very good. I mean, it's okay, but not good. I think when I was reading it, I could see like a lot of areas where I can improve it.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, that sounds good. And then I went home, started looking into issues, open issues that in Angular repository I couldn't find anything. Believe me, I mean, all the issues were like, oh, this is too difficult to understand. So, but I did one thing. I subscribed to the repository. I started looking at all the issues. I started reading them. That what people are actually, what kind of issues they are raising, what they are raising, and how people are actually resolving them. Like looking at the PRs. And then I went to another repository called NGRX, which is one of the state management library for Angular, and it's like widely used. And there was an open issue which was something which I was actually learning about. So it was part of my job. So I wanted to do something similar, and I said, okay, this is something similar which I was planning to learn. So let's take. And I was really scared. I was like, okay, I will take this issue, but what if I couldn't do it? Because doing it for the first time is hard, right? Anything which you do for the first time is hard. And then I like, of course, researched about it, went to Angular repository, saw that like how they are doing it, and it was just a function change. I was like, wow, this is easy. And then I raised my PR, first PR on 28th of October, 20th, 28th of Feb. I still remember the date because you always remember the date for your first one.
First contribution.
So yeah, and then it was merged like next day. I was like, wow. And then I went like crazy. So I started doing PRs for everyone. I was doing PR for Microsoft. I was doing PR for React, and doing. And then few weeks after I opened my first PR on Angular, and I think never stopped after this. I mean, I have slowed down, of course, because more things. I'm just not doing open source now, so there are more things which I'm doing, and you have to also concentrate on your health. I ignored it sometimes, and it comes to bite me back. I mean, I got diabetes a few weeks back, so.
Okay, like once something like really bad happens to you, that's when you realize like we should have taken care of it better, managed stress better with like doing a lot of more things. Like,
This is the story. This is how I started.
No, but that is very interesting. A key thing that I think people nowadays forget is that a lot of, especially youngsters, tend to feel that they should know a lot of things in order to contribute. And for example, if they're not at that stage, they lose the motivation very fast as well. But like you said, you subscribe to the repository. That's how you kept on kind of being in touch with the repository, the code changes that were happening, or the new issues being created. I think that is what helped you come in the flow of the repository, and then you were able to find out things that you wanted to change. I think that is a very key learning point that a lot of people, I think, right now ignore. That I think becomes like a barrier in order to contribute to open source directly, wherein a lot of people would think that they need to know either everything or the exact solution to the issue. But would you say it is right to say that solving an issue is just like you would do it at your work? Like, if you have some issue, if it's something new, you would search a lot of things, you'll try and see what is working, what's not working, and then come up with it. Would you say it's something like that? Or what's the best way to approach?
So, I mean, look, the contributing to open source is not easy. I'm trying to be a gatekeeper here. This is reality. A lot of people say, okay, that's very easy. And I'm sure that they're lying, or they're just selling some courses where you learn about contributing to open source, but it's not. I mean, the thing is, of course, it takes time, right? I've been doing Angular since 2017, and for me, like it was a little bit easy because I knew Angular, right? At least I knew Angular, and I had never seen the Angular code base, which is very big. There are like a lot of things you can. I mean, even people inside the Angular team, they don't know like all the areas of the code base. So first thing which you should forget about is like knowing everything, right? So that's out of the question. I think one thing you should concentrate more on using the APIs. Like if you don't know how to use this framework or how to use this particular library, I think it's hard to contribute, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do in case you don't know anything? So concentrate on learning first. So learn that thing. At least have not. Like I'm not saying that you should have like mastered everything, but at least learn how to use it, and then like look for the ways to contribute. I mean, it's a lie that people can come on day one and start contributing. That's not happening. I mean, that's not happening anyway. That's just a lie. Because like you see, open source is like very catchy topic nowadays, right? I mean, once people realize that okay, I can get a remote job or I can do this, like people who are actually doing open source, they're not doing it for job or money, right? They're just doing it because they're passionate. But some people actually present it in such a way that this is your get rich quick scheme, basically. And that's why people are like, even though people like they don't want to contribute, they're just doing it because they think that they will make money in future.
Yes, and I think that also goes to show, like even during Hacktoberfest, like so many repositories get spammed with so many like word changes or like letter changes just to get that number of PRs to get a free T-shirt or just show off that badge, which I think is completely incorrect. Like
because when I don't agree with this, like I think that's all started in 2020 when one of the YouTuber who did this, he said, "Hey, you want a free T-shirt?" And then he created a video saying, "Just go ahead and raise a PR in documentation by changing something." And then people started doing that because who doesn't want a free T-shirt, right? So,
Yeah.
I think I last time I participated in 2019 edition. I think that was the first year I was doing open source. So, anyways, so I was like, okay, let's do this. I mean, I had heard about like uh, this Oktoberfest by that time, so I said, let's do it. And you know, to open 4 PRs, I think I was like doing PRs like crazy. So 4 PRs were nothing. So I did that, and then 2020 this happened. I was like, okay, stay away from this. And I think they made some changes, which is better
Yes,
now.
yes. I think now there are a lot of changes, but yeah, like people did do that at one point. Yeah.
Now you have opt out, so your repository can like it's opt out or opt in by default. I don't know.
I think it is.
You have to opt in, right?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Yes. And so through the open source world, transitioning into the community space, like you said that you had a friend who you talked to about regarding contributing to Angular, and maybe that's when you thought of creating tutorials or blogs, or were you more into coding first and then came into, say, public speaking in the community? What was that like?
Public speaking actually started long back for me, not in public, just it was speaking.
Okay.
Remove the public part, the speaking part. So when I was at the startup, so there was time that I thought like my learnings are not like I'm not learning anything new. So what I started doing is I started doing internal sessions within the company.
Okay.
And because let me tell you, I mean, if I have to, if like 12 years ago, if I have to like speak in front of anyone, I will probably fail.
Oh, okay.
I was like that's scared. So, and then I started doing this internally. So of course, those were people I knew, but still, right, it took like some time to prepare myself.
Yes.
So I started doing that, and then started teaching in 2016. I started teaching in the institute, right? So that was in person. And then I started teaching like I used to like teach for an online training institute as well. So I think that fear went away, like speaking in front of people. And then after I started doing this open source in 2019, I was doing an issue for NGRX. And the maintainers, they said, why don't you, like I made it work, so whatever they wanted, I just made it work, the example, and they said, hey, this is very good. Can you do one more thing? Can you write about it? I was like, why not? Let's do this. And I started writing about it. I mean, believe me, I mean, the first draft which I wrote was like shit, of course. And then they said, okay, we will take this draft. And there was a community called Angular in Depth. Yeah, Angular in Depth. Okay. It was like it's very famous community, very famous blog post for Angular developers. So they all were actually were writing for Angular in Depth publication. So they took it there and they shared it internally. I was not part of it. They just shared it internally, and then people started reviewing it. I got a lot of comments. I mean, people were really frustrated. Like, who's this guy? I mean, couldn't write, because of course English is like not my first language.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And writing is hard. I mean, believe me. I mean, because I was not like never code like technical blogs like this. I wrote few blogs in 2016 about .NET, but it was more about code. And once you write code, it's like code, right? I mean, no one can question it. It was like kind of tutorial. You do this, you do this, and this was like really where you are putting some contents as well as code. So, and like all the writers in the community were like very professionals. So they did that. I mean, the review went through the review, and then it became better, and we finally published it. And then they invited me to the Slack channel, which stays to run. So I think that's where like getting involved into the community part started, and then I started writing for them. And around 2019, one of my friend Sajitaran, who is in Sri Lanka, is in Sri Lanka, yeah. So he was doing his first conference, but it was like, okay, it's a community-based conference. Like there will be a lot of kids from colleges, so they were like not offering the money for traveling, right? So they said, I mean, we have this limitation. If you want to come, I mean, we'll take care of your hotel, but you need to pay for your travel. And then I saw the tweet. I just approached him like, hey, I'll be able to take care of my travel, but do you think like can I come? He's like, yeah, sure. I mean, I have seen your work, and you have been doing some pretty amazing work. So he just said yes, and then I went there in 2019. It was September of 2019 when I gave my first like Angular talk in front of 300 people, and that was again another feeling because I was like crazy. I mean, I know that how badly it went, but people still say okay, it was good. But I know like my first in-person talk, and it was like, yeah, what I was doing. I mean, even if I watched my recording today, of course I have improved, but that was like very bad.
That was
And
the
then I
first.
started.
Yeah, so it has all the elements of a first talk.
Exactly, it was. So, and then of course 2019, then I got invited for GD program as well, because that was the year I was doing so many things, right? I started started doing open source. As I said, not many people were doing open source in India in 2019. So of course it's easy to get visibility, right?
Yes.
I mean, but it was like I was not aware of it. I was like just enjoying it, man. I mean, I was just enjoying it because that was something I was doing for the first time in my career. Like as I have been developer since 2008, and this was the first year I was like doing something which people outside my circle, right? I mean, the work circles, started recognizing me from somewhere. I was like just going crazy with all this stuff, and then suddenly this shitty program. Siddharth, who used to work for Google, now he doesn't. He moved to I think some other company, but Siddharth reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have this GD program. Would you like to apply?" I said, "What is this GD program?" And then he said, "Share some document," and then I applied, and eventually I got in 2019 itself. So it was like, yeah, crazy year.
Well, no, I think that is one thing we have in common. 2019 January was my first international talk as well in Singapore, yeah, at Geek Camp. That was the first time I spoke outside of Pune. Yeah, so 2019 was great. Like, I can understand your feeling. Like, having that first talk, like, has a very different. It is a very different excitement level as well. That is what I would say. And so, being in the community, a lot of people look at everything in a very give and take fashion, whereas, say, speaking at conferences, teaching people just about what you know as well, most of us do it just out of passion because we like to share what we do. But a lot of people would look at it as what are the monetary or what are some benefits that you would get out of it. What are some things that I personally have realized have been like very indirect. Like you get to be with a lot of like-minded people, and you might come up with ideas on your own that you all might that you might like get to work on. That is what I feel like helps me. What keeps me going? What is it that keeps you going? Because it's mainly passion-driven and kind of voluntarily.
I mean, so again, it's a very long story. So because when I was in college, it was like hard to get like, of course, like somehow I completed my bachelor's, right? So my father was like lost his job around 2003 4. So somehow he managed to pay for my education, but I couldn't afford books. So when it comes to learning, I was like, I used to take books from libraries and like read it. And during exams, I used to just take it. I asked my teachers, like asked my professors, so they used to take it for me, so I can like keep it till the exams, right? So it was somewhere it was back in my mind because I was like, okay, once. So when I started doing like, of course, 2019 happened, and then I started like, okay, I wrote blogs and all this. I did things for money, and then once I became like, of course, self-sustained. That okay, now I can. This is okay. I mean, this much money is okay for me and my family. So I started thinking like, how should I do it? I mean, a lot of people. I used to work with some this e-learning platforms as well, where I did some courses, paid courses, and then I thought like, okay, now what? I mean, and they used to always tell me like it's okay, Santosh, you're doing all this for the community, but you should also think about money. So I thought like, why not to face this money problem first?
Yes.
So 2020, I got like a remote job. I mean, the raise was like, of course, almost 50% from my previous salary. I was like, okay, now I got this money problem solved. So what I do is I can start doing the contents for free, right? So because that's what I wanted to do for a long time, but
Yeah.
of course I had to do things because I needed money. And then once I like, got this money problem solved, I was like, okay, this is enough for me and my family now. We can survive, of course, now. So I thought like, okay, what I really wanted to do. So I went back like in my past and said, okay, I struggled to get some contents because of course I couldn't afford it. So let's start putting everything for free. So that's when I started doing videos, like started publishing videos on my YouTube channel, then did a course on Angular, which was back in 2022. It's still available on FreeCodeCamp. I think it has more than 1.2 million views now, or
Wow.
3. So I think it's all about passion and the past.
That keeps you going, contributing like content in the community. Wow, that's amazing. And what are some advice, like 3-4 tips or advices for somebody like you have come in from humble beginnings and now are like you've kind of, I think you have moved to Germany as well. So as a developer, like your career transitions, everything, what are some 3-4 tips or say 5 tips that you would give to anybody who is say currently in a humble beginning situation? What is the advice that you would give that person so that they also excel your learnings?
5. Okay, let me think about it. First
Yes.
is, of course, should keep your studies going on. Like, look, as a software developer, the learning never stops. So you have to always keep yourself updated, so you can actually sell yourself in the market. This was something which I have done in my career. So when I started my career, I was a .NET developer doing Windows development. Then I said, okay, I want to do web, and then I started learning it. So it's not like I got the job and then I started doing it. This is the complaint I have heard from so many developers, even during interviews. So, of course, like, you are the one. I mean, of course, keep learning. And second thing is, you are the one responsible for your career. Your company is never responsible for your career. So just keep this in your mind, and then you will focus more on the point one, that keeping yourself
Up to date.
because you're not going to like stay at that company forever, right? This is not 60s or 70s. Our parents, like, they worked for a company for 40 years, 50 years, probably they retired. But it's not true anymore. I mean, the company will throw you away the day they realize that they don't need you, or the day they realize that, okay, you have been just a number who is not doing any value addition to the team. So, and the third one is, of course, try to get involved in the community. That's very important. I kept myself away for a longer period of time, but I think that's something worked out for me. But also, like, think about why you want to get involved in the community. A lot of people, as I said, like today, they just want to do it for money or fame, or just probably getting a new job. I mean, that's okay. I mean, once you make connection, you will get a job, you'll get money, and probably maybe you can become famous as well. But that should not be your mindset, right? I mean, the best part of the community is, of course, there is room for everyone. The more number of people will join, more people will succeed together, right? It's not something where there are because remember this thing, like, there are a lot of people who quit after some years, right? Because people take gaps because suppose they get done at some point of time. And fifth thing would be, like, take care of your health. Don't do anything like which is above or like which is too much for your health. For example, there was a time I was working like crazy in during my startup days, right? So I missed spending time with family. Then I started doing open source. I missed focusing on my health. And then, believe me, I used to be 83 kg in 2019 because I was just doing open source the entire night. And then I realized, oh, I have become so fat. So, and then again, this year happened, right? So last year I was traveling too much, and now, like last month, we got that, okay, I have a diabetes. So health is important. If you focus on your health, like this, you can work longer for sure. And this will be my 5 tips so far.
Yeah. No, these are like very comprehensive tips as well. Like right from how important it is to not just keep yourself upskilled, but also like kind of finding that balance into your life and your like work life or the dev life. That is very interesting. And one more thing that I would like to ask you about is about your transition from India to Germany as a software developer, and how has that been? How was your experience working in India with people across the globe? Like most software teams have people from across the globe, and then now coming into the European work culture or the Germany work culture. How has that been?
Um, so to be frank, I mean, so most of my, I think, early in my career, I was struggling to get a very stable job. So first 3 years, I was just like job hopping because of course I needed more money,
Mm-hmm.
and most number of years I worked at a startup. So that was from 2011 to I think around 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was that startup. And Indian startups are like, so they will try to utilize you as much as possible. So it's like who takes more responsibility gets the most job, right? And then most blame as well, for sure. So that was a very different scenario. I mean, a very different work culture because I was new. Of course, I started getting some work, right? Because for 3 years I was struggling to get some work. I was not aware of like, where it would lead. I was just excited that I'm getting some work,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually, like I started doing crazy times. And then I mean, because people were really nice. I think that was one of the factor I was there. And then people changed. New manager came again, very toxic guys. And then I realized, okay, this is not where I want to work. And then I left. Started working in a company in Pune, and then I worked with US teams. Like, and then they were like really chill out. Of course, um, the culture was different. And one thing which I had learned during my startup days is I started saying no.
Okay.
So I started saying no to like anything beyond my work hours. So if someone is asking me to sit through and do some work, I'm not gonna do it. I'll come tomorrow, and that's a very good thing which I adopted around 2016. I started saying no, and I followed that everywhere. So even when I was working for Deutsche Bank, I remember like my first month, and there was a call which was happening, and then one of the program managers said, "Hey, can you finish it today?" I was like, "No," and I said, "Like I'm about to leave. Um, how I'll be difficult to do it?" So he said, "No, can you push a little bit?" I was like, "No,"
Mm-hmm.
and then he said, "Can you do it tomorrow?" I was like, "No, it will take 2 days,"
Mm-hmm.
and he realized that this guy is not going to do it. So I think that's saying no or learning to say no helped me a lot in my career rather than pushing myself and working for 4 days, 5 days. And then, of course, like after Deutsche Bank, I started doing remote. I started working with, I think that was 2020, I started working with Germans, which was remote. And Germans are like really different because they're really straightforward. If they like it, they will say they like it. If they don't like it, they will say they're not liking it. If they're not like political person, right? Hey, this can be better. No, they will say this sucks. So that's
Got
how they are. And of course, and then uh, of course, I left that job because that cultural difference was very big for me. I mean, I couldn't stand it. Like, I was like, hey, I have worked with mostly nice people who are like really nice to me, and this is very different culture. I mean, so of course, then at the end, I even had a call with the developer, like with whom I had some differences. He said like, this is all very not personal because we are just learning. We don't like used to even speak in English before. It was like all German teams we used to talk in German,
Oh, wow.
so that this was never an issue. He said he was like, I'm really sorry, like if you felt something, but in case. If you can stay, you are like a very good developer. I mean, they accepted that I'm doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem was this cultural difference, and then I quit. I decided to do my own. I started doing my own consulting thing. I had good clients,
Mm-hmm.
and then COVID happened, and then
Yeah.
2021 was like pretty bad. I got scared, so thought like I started thinking about moving somewhere, and the same friend who actually recommended me to that job where I was working with the team remotely. he recommended me to his company. And then I came to Germany in 2022. And then again, that was a very difficult situation. Mostly people around me were mostly from Germany, native Germans. So work there. So I had to quit in 6 months. I mean, again, some differences. So I said, okay, let's quit. And it was affecting me personally and mentally. So I was like so much demotivated. I literally had burnout. I was scared to write even single line of code. That was damaged that not the company, but yeah, that was the damage done. So, and then Celonis came in. Good thing about Celonis is it's people are from different cultures. So my teammate is like one is in US and another one is in Düsseldorf, but he's from another country as well. And it's like a lot of people from different countries. So I get to interact with, of course, like many developers. I mean, we have my team is responsible for platform, so I get to interact with like more than 100 developers for sure. I like to work with like such wide team where because people have already accepted each other, right?
Yes.
So it's not like some mind games or something. So and then of course, like it's been close to 2 years with Celonis, and good thing is one good thing about companies in Europe is like they really appreciate like you doing some community things. Like for example, I do a lot of conferences, so they like it. So they really are supportive of it. I mean, I don't have to take leaves. I mean, this is something which I have heard from so many developers who are working in India, that you have to literally take leaves in case you are traveling. And then I talk with my manager that look, if I start traveling, I will travel like crazy. So it can be like I'm traveling for 10, 12 conferences in a year, and I cannot take leaves. If I do that, I mean, probably I'll burn out a lot of my leaves. So I said I'll work during my travel, because if you're traveling, like you will be at least for 4 hours at the airport, right?
Yes.
So of course you can work from airports. So I started doing that. So I started to manage my travel plus work. And this year, anyways, I'm not traveling much, but I try to like make sure that my work is not getting affected because of this. And companies here just need that. Like they don't care about like what you're doing after 6:30. That's none of their business. And your leaves are yours. So I really like that. So you have 30 leaves, you have to take it the way you take it. It doesn't matter. So I generally try to keep my leaves till the end of December, and then take like entire time off in December. Even you have family leaves here. So let's say if my wife or daughter is sick, I can just take leave and just take care of them. I don't have to push myself and manage multiple things. So this work-life balance thing is like they take it really seriously. Of course, one thing which I have seen is they're really transparent, right? So I don't have to lie to them to take a leave. I can just say, for example, I just got this diabetes and I thought of going to someplace for vacation. I just said my manager, hey, I'm taking a family time, and I'll go for a vacation. Just went there. So that's how it works. I mean, people are really transparent.
To your career, like, do you plan on being in the Angular space, or are you also exploring some new technologies, or how do you go about learning about new technologies? Like, how do you do that?
So as of now, like most of my work is not around Angular. So it's like we use something called NX. So it's a build tool basically. So my job and my team's job is to manage the platform we have. So most of the time I'm not doing Angular. So we are trying to like make our code base much much maintainable. Try to introduce new tools. Try to keep our monorepo updated, or try to provide new tools to our developers. So let's say there are any chances where we can automate things, that's what we do. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like, okay, I should do Angular, but I think I've been doing that for 15 years. I mean, I've been shipping features. Now, what I enjoy most is supporting developers, because that's what I have been doing since I started doing consulting. So back in 2020. So I did that for almost close to 2 years, and I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, good thing. I mean, I was supposed to like work on our UI library, but my manager probably. I'm still grateful to him that he realized that I won't be good fit for that. Probably, but a bigger thing. So he put me into this team where we are managing this entire platform, and I love supporting developers. So developer experience is where my focus is. So to learn new things, I mean, generally try to do is something. For example, go through courses, videos, blog posts. They are the best way because nowadays, like everything is available for free, right?
Yes.
You don't have to buy a course on your day one. And good thing about the companies in Europe, I think this is something more companies are doing, providing platforms like Pluralsight or front end masters, so people can learn.
Mm-hmm.
If not, ask your managers. I mean, they should be able to provide it. So I have access to all the learning resources, free as well as paid, and I try to like, of course, whenever I have free time, I do that. And apart from that, of course, preparing for talks. I don't know everything, right? I mean, of course, I'm not a god. So, of course, when I'm preparing for my talks, I try to do some research, learn about things, and then prepare my talk. So that also is a part of learning, right? I mean, if you cannot learn, how are you supposed to teach?
Yes, yes. Um, yep, agreed completely. And what is your take on, like, are you also diving deep into the machine learning space, the AI space? And like, from a developer perspective, like, with respect to the new technologies in that space?
So I would say I'm really early at the stage. I'm utilizing the AI things, right? So I'm more into utilizing AI to support my work rather than actually doing something with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one thing which I believe in, that because your AI is not going to take a job, but someone who is actually using AI will
Right.
absolutely take your job. So I try to use it as much as possible. For example, of course, open Chat GPT. So when I'm doing some coding and of course I need to do some quick stuff, I just go there and just search for it. The thing is, of course, you need to know like what to search for, right?
Yeah.
So that's something which comes from with the experience. But I know like how to get the answers from ChatGPT, or if I'm using the Google Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just utilizing them. Of course, the plan is to like do some research on that. But yeah, the only thing is currently the problem is time. So I
Yes.
really like
Yeah.
I'm trying to like short my days now. I try to sleep around 11 max.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so because of course I have to take enough sleep so my blood pressure is under control.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I'm exercising now. I mean, I'm walking a lot, so of course you get tired by end of the day. So once but I mean, this is something which will never stop, the learning part. So of course I'm thinking about few things to do in future, and probably and do it. I
And
started learning. I remember like I started learning Rust, and then I had to drop it.
okay. Yes, yes. And a big question that a lot of people have and generally tend to ask each other as well as, do you think AI will change everything that we do right now? And how do you think it will impact developers and developer jobs?
Things look as I said, like AI is not going to take your job, but the person who is using AI will. So you have to like start utilizing it. You cannot run away from it, but that's for sure. Now, the only way you can survive is start delegating, right? Look, for example, like, so there are some tasks. Let's say recently I had to write some utility which was to do a cleanup, like file system cleanup. So of course I could have like searched for the syntax on Node.js and then see like how this works. But I did smart thing. I said, okay, hey ChatGPT, I want to delete this file, but I want to check that if this folder exists or not. And then I started writing code, and then I said, hey, give me like how can I write test for this? So of course, like that part, the utility which we wanted to do was that, but we don't want to invest much time doing that because it was high impact because so many developers are asking for it. But from our point of view, like there are bigger priorities than that. So what I did is smart thing, right? Just delegate this to ChatGPT, ask like what you want to do, and like use the code. Of course, you are also writing tests, so you're making sure it works. Just don't blindly copy paste the code from ChatGPT, of course. So this is what will be the future. The smart developers who can who knows like what to delegate. Like of course you cannot search for everything. There are things ChatGPT cannot do, or even GitHub Copilot cannot do for you. That's like core business logic, right?
Yes.
You have to be smart enough to actually do that, or adopting new tools, because look, ChatGPT or Google Gemini or GitHub Copilot can give you answer for the technologies which exist, but not something which just came in the market.
Yes, yes.
So you have to be like very smart to actually learn about new things quickly and adopt to it, right? Because one thing which I've also learned from my career is technology is not going to remain as is. It's always going to improve, and so you need to also improve yourself. So do that. I mean, delegate this high impact but not much important for you work, and like start utilizing those AI tools which is available for you. So I still don't understand like companies who are not probably adopting this, how they'll be able to survive for a longer time, because this improves only the productivity of your developers. So if you're not allowing your developers to use ChatGPT or GitHub Copilot or even any other Gen AI tools which is available, do that. I mean, it's not like developers will start just copy pasting code. That's something you have to like also like change as a company. You have to change your behavior, right? So if you're blindly merging the PRs, probably you have to stop doing that. You have to like have a proper review process that developers are just not copy pasting code from anywhere and pushing it. So comes, Spider-Man said, everyone knows, with power comes responsibility. So you have to do that. I mean, Gen AI is giving you power, but you have to be really responsible.
No, that's a great note to end on. A Spider-Man code generally helps in most situations. Yeah, so I think we're almost up on time as well. Santosh, it was really nice having you on the podcast. Even meeting you in person during JSConf India was really nice. You are one of those persons in the community who's like very approachable. And what is the best place that people who are listening to us or watching our podcast to connect with you?
Very active on X on LinkedIn, so feel free to drop me a DM in case you want to talk. And
Awesome.
yeah, I'll be at a few conferences in person. So I'll be in India for React Nexus this year in July. So if you are in India and you're coming to React Nexus, let's meet. And I'll be in Pune as well. So let's see if there are any meetups. If you're coming, I can also join.
Yes, for sure. And I'll put in both X and LinkedIn's link of Santosh's in the description. So you can check that out. And yeah, like, subscribe, and share the podcast with everybody. Thank you.